gotta. Okay, are we finally good? It looks like we're okay. It looks like we are okay? Question mark? Oy vey. Ugh. Oh my gosh, dude. Why is my computer just not doing what I need it to? Okay, well, that's wonderful, but I just don't know how I can possibly get not doing what I need it to.
This thing going. Whoa! There we go! There we go!
We finally got it. Okay, well, that's wonderful. Oh, good evening. Hello. Hi. Uh Cool. I'm really glad that it's working out fine. Yeah, this computer is a solid computer. I built it, not like physically built it myself, but I picked out all of the components and had someone else build it for me. But honestly, at some point, I really should just figure out how to build my own computer. Like, I would feel much more confident just knowing it, just feeling much more strong in my own skill, but also my own failings. Like, reap the rewards of what I sow, essentially. uh, uh, yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by behaving yourself. I haven't seen anything out of like the ordinary in that regard, but I mean, I'm glad you will. I hope everyone does in this stream. um, but yeah, we're finally set up, so welcome. Welcome, welcome. So, what's the vibe? What are we thinking about? How has the week been for everyone? Oh. Yeah, the super chat was really really kind, honestly. And I wouldn't say that that's anything you would need to focus on in terms of behaving. That's not focused on behavior. That's just more of me feeling overwhelmed from the fact that people like you really support me in the channel like that. I never expect uh I never expect super chats. So just the fact that uh people genuinely provide their or give their own resources to me in supporting the channel, that really does mean a lot. I really appreciate that, John. Thank you so much. That's really considerate of you to say. Yeah, absolutely. Gyro is a heck of a duo. They really great vocalist and solid beatboxer with just really foundational beatbox. It was so good. I really dig their stuff. Um, and something that I've been thinking about is going into videos from the BBU, which is a beatboxing tournament held in, I believe it was 2020, because all of the videos were separated from everyone. And that's a really long form beatboxing competition, and there were a lot of bangers in that one. And I haven't heard them since 2020, so it's not like I remember all of them. So it'd be really cool to revisit that and talk about some of those there too. But yeah, a couple videos that I released recently have been blocked. And I'm waiting for them to hopefully come back online, which is probably why it might have seemed like the last couple of days I haven't really posted anything. But no, it's just been really frustrating with copyright recently. So I'm trying to work around that, and on top of that, uploading things to Patreon is actually considerably more challenging than I thought it'd be. So I'm really just trying to figure stuff out and come up with my own process and routine of navigating through the uploading process and the editing process, and just making sure everything is good to go for the launch of that. So hopefully that'll come out soon too. And I know I've been saying that it's going to come out in the next couple of weeks or whatever for a while now, but I've really been hammering away at it, and it's really been very challenging. But I'm really doing my best, and I know it's going to be worth it when it launches. But man, it's just beating my butt right now. And overly sent to Dan Rath singing and thinking it needs to. I've been watching your past posts, because that's what John. I see you started with storytelling. I did, and I mean that's the name of the channel, Good Evening Stories. Because here's a little backstory, a little story. I love opera not because of solely the beauty in the tradition, and because I just am obsessed with that kind of music. That's not the case. It's more because I have always, to some level, really been fascinated by human potential, and music was always something that really gripped me, and I connected with it more than other outlets and mediums of art. And plus I've just human potential in general I've always been attracted to. So I went to school for opera. My sister went to school for opera. We were just so captivated by that. And something I really love about opera itself is the storytelling aspect of it. When people typically think of opera, they think of a big, busty woman in a metal bra screaming notes. And while that's... I'm not even going to say that's necessarily true. That's only true in one opera, and it doesn't even have to be a big busty woman screaming notes. That mental image is associated with one of Wagner's operas in his Ring cycle, but outside of that, opera is incredible storytelling. Very dramatic, very humorous. And it's like watching live action anime, essentially. Really elaborate histrionic acting with really cool effects. And opera's been adapting pretty well to the modern era. So honestly, I just think people need to give it more of a chance than they've been giving it. But that being said, I just really love storytelling. Storytelling is a really big part of my life, and I love engaging with people in storytelling. That's why on my Patreon, I'm not only going to have early access to music reactions, but also access to anime reactions and anime content, because I think there's a lot of really great value to be gained from stories. A lot of the books that I've been reading, like even though I primarily read nonfiction, some of the books that I have bought that I haven't started reading yet because I'm working through the books I am reading right now. But when I finish my books, some of the things that I'm going to go into are just full story based with really powerful moral and ethical lessons and things to really reflect on and consider. There's a lot of beauty in storytelling, and I've always loved it, and that's what I wanted the channel to be. I noticed that it was not gaining any traction whatsoever, so I figured I might as well put some of my musical background to use, hence the music reactions. And that just took off, and the rest is history. But we'll see how the channel evolves and develops over time. But as of right now, I think this is a really good starting point, for sure. A bubble. I do move a lot. That is true. I'm very expressive. It would go right on the same shelf as Rocket Wreck. Have you watched any of the other music reaction channels like Peter Barber, Maggie Renee, Elizabeth Zaroff, or The Charismatic Voice? All of them, but Zaroff. Zaroff. Elizabeth. Yes, I have seen Peter Barber, Renee, and The Charismatic Voice. I think all of them have their own unique twists as to how to approach specific styles of music. In terms of, like, just out of those options, the one that I probably like the most would probably be Maggie Renee, just because she doesn't hyperfixate on the musical technique, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of value in what people like The Charismatic Voice does, and things like that, where they just focus really intensely on the technique and what's actually happening. But typically when I listen to reaction channels, I want to have a really strong mix of entertainment value and education. And if you're just focusing on the technique of something, it's a very lopsided balance of education versus entertainment. And it's very difficult for me to stay engaged with sole education. That's why when I was a music teacher, and I still might get back into that for additional income, but when I worked for a music school, whenever I was engaging with students, I would always make sure that, even though the goal of the lessons was to ultimately produce stronger vocal ability and lead the students where they want to be musically in terms of just how they want to advance as a musician, I always tried to make the lessons themselves very engaging. Not just in terms of engage the breath, engage with the piece, but engaging with me, making sure that the lessons are fun, that they actually correspond having a good time with the lessons and not just see the lessons as work. So, because when I was doing voice lessons, my brain was wrapped in the mentality of, I want to get to this level, this is my goal, and this is the practice I have to do to it. So I saw vocal lessons as work. And even though it was very powerful and a good drive for me, that's not the way that many people want to engage with music. Many people do see music as a hobby, which is just fine in my view. And I want to make sure that if you come into a lesson, then that you're not looking at it as time to get to work, time to produce the best vocal athleticism of all time, but let's have a good time while learning and enjoy each other's company and enjoy the process of making music. And like any good thing in the world, I think it starts with a love for something. You can really grit your teeth and push through the hard work of something and eventually come to love something. But I think if you just start off on the right foot of, I really want to be someone that really enjoys music and enjoys the process of making music, it's not like, all right, time to produce, like if you're interested in cooking, it's not, let me produce this 5-star Michelin chef signature dish, and if I fail the first time, or if I cut something slightly askew, if my knife skills aren't up to par, then I just quit forever because I'm frustrated. That happens so often in so many different hobbies. And if music is really an interpersonal connection with yourself and with others, that connects you with others, then I want it to be a fun and enjoyable experience. Hence why my reaction videos are a combination of a little bit of education, but also here for entertainment and connecting, building bridges with each other, enjoying each other's perspectives. And recently, actually, I've gotten more comments about my criticisms of artists. And to be perfectly honest, I really don't feel like I've been providing a lot of criticism per se. Because I've mentioned this before in past streams and videos where if I wanted to be critical, I really could be. And I have been in the past. And not in terms of video making, but just in terms of one-on-one lessons with people that genuinely want to achieve musical greatness, excellence. And many of the critiques that I've gotten in my career so far have been very, very harsh and very direct. And I love that kind of energy, though. But not a lot of people can really handle criticism. And my criticism isn't even to them, it's to musicians that they have an emotional investment in, which is why I try to temper my opinions, not even my criticisms, but my opinions, to make sure that people can still vibe with the music making process and create that human experience together. But yeah, in terms of actually providing opinions, though, something that I really want to drive clear in this channel is it is perfectly acceptable to have different opinions. And it's not only acceptable, I implore that people give me more differing opinions. Like I've mentioned in past videos and streams, my friend group of 5 friends is built off of people with vastly different moral matrices who all have different views of the world, different ethics, different principles, but we all look past our own values, our own personal eccentricities, etc., and we look at each other for our character, what it is that we truly want to see in ourselves and each other, how we can mold ourselves and not keep ourselves as static figures, but actually grow and evolve into stronger, more capable, happier people. more wise people because we expose ourselves to different opinions, because we expose ourselves to different ways of looking at the world. And I implore that more people speak up more about what it is that's truly and authentically their own value system, their own true sense of ethics and character. Because everybody just trying to match a particular philosophy or worldview, I think is just ultimately doomed to fail. The more that you try to force people into a specific way of thinking, the more, like, humans are very naturally resistant, like, more naturally recalcitrant, I should say, or just opposed to authority. And not to say that we're opposed to society, but there will always be a certain level of resistance when people try to force other people to do things. It's human nature. And instead of trying to control and manipulate others, let's try to control our own actions and figure out what's real to us and how we can best navigate the world through our own lens, and contribute to other people's lives through our own experience as they can contribute to our lives through their experience. And that's how we build bridges. So, like, and all of this is to say that storytelling is a really good catalyst for bringing together a myriad of varying perspectives and viewpoints into a single cauldron in which we can brew something truly magical. Rant over. Let me catch up. I know all of them for years. That's awesome. Elizabeth is the charismatic voice. Oops. Would you have a collab vlog with any of them? I don't know about that. I really don't know. And the reason is because I am a pretty socially awkward guy. And what I mean by that is when I engage with other people, I engage with others because I genuinely want to know how they look at either, in this case, music, or look at the world, or a particular issue that's happening in their lives. I'm very intuitive and inquisitive, and I'm always poking and prodding, testing my limits with people. Not because I want to irritate them, but because I want to see what my boundaries are. I want to see what it is that I can engage with this person on in terms of discussion. I'm always looking for ways to better myself. And oftentimes that can rub people the wrong way because I'm constantly pushing on boundaries, and I'm never really submitting to one particular way of thought. I'm usually playing devil's advocate or finding different courses of thought and trying to connect myself to different branches of one particular thought process so I can get as big of a picture as possible and not focus on one particular way of doing something. Like, this is the way to do it, or this is the way to behave, or or whatever it is. I think there's many different ways of experiencing something, especially experiencing life, and there's no one real correct way to do it, which is why I'm always asking people how it is that they engage and how it is that they want to do something. So in terms of a musical vlog with, like, collaboration, that would be more difficult because I would need to know more of them as a person and know what my boundaries are, like, know what it is, the field that I'm playing in, and how it is that I can maneuver and navigate, and what questions I can ask, how I can respond. And it's a whole process. And even though I practice my social skills every day through, or rather every morning, I should say, because I wake up pretty early and I go to a cafe and I read a book, but I also set out a a chess set or a deck of cards, and I invite people to approach me and just talk about life as we're playing. And if there's nobody that approaches me, I just continue to read and study. So during those times when people actually do approach me and talk to me, that's when I really try to get better at social engagement. But it's really tough for me personally, and I know I can rub a lot of people the wrong way, and the internet is forever, you know, and it's really difficult for me to make relationships when it's not in a one-on-one setting, but it's in screen to screen setting. I need to be there in person. I need to see their body language, and I need to ask them questions directly in a way that might feel very uncomfortable for some people, but for me it's perfectly comfortable. So it's very difficult trying to find that line. But who knows, maybe sometime in the future, if the channel gets enough success and if people are very genuinely interested in collaborating, I mean, you know, I'll definitely give it a lot of consideration. But it is something that I approach with caution on, for sure. It's because they never really encountered the critics. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like there definitely are people in the world that do want the bounds of music, of art, of whatever to be expanded. And the only way you can actually expand something as broad as art, or just as anything that can be interpreted as art, you have to receive criticism. And I'm not talking about, oh, that was really good, but you just need to tweak that. No. I'm talking about some of the greatest criticism I ever got was when I was in Germany and I performed for a really well-renowned retired German baritone. And at the end of my performance, he came up to me and told me my interpretation of the piece was horrendous and gave me ideas as to how to interpret it. And he helped me break it down a little bit more, and I created a new mental image as to how to approach the piece. And the reason why that was such a compliment from him is because I heard him directly tell other singers, you need to find a new profession because singing is not it. This is a guy who is very blunt, very direct, and the fact that he didn't comment on my technique, on my diction, on my German nonetheless, on my performance, on anything, just my interpretation of it, that was a huge compliment. And it's being able to interpret that kind of criticism and being able to interpret, okay, this is where he's coming from. He is very well versed, especially in German Lied, and which is a subsect of German music for vocalists. And it's just being able to interpret, this person is a very direct person. They do not cut corners. They're very honest and blunt. And if you are not able to handle that kind of directness, then being in the field of art in order to expand yourself is not it. You have to keep singing as a hobby if you truly do not want to achieve excellence. If you do want to achieve excellence in any profession or any field, you need to be able to take not only gentle criticism, but harsh, direct, brutal criticism. And it's going to wear on you, but it's ultimately going to make you stronger. It's just like working out. Yeah, you know, you finished your workout, you're exhausted, and you stretch that night, but the following day you're still a little bit sore. It's still kind of a grind to go back to the gym, especially if you are still sore. But you're trying to achieve something, and you gotta persevere through that coarseness, those rough patches. And that's the only way you're going to achieve excellence, at least from what I've been able to observe, not just from my own experience, but from the greats in the field. Absolutely. Sure, criticism gets a lot of response. Many viewers are fans of actual artists and not of yours. want their idol to get hyped in general. Yeah, absolutely. People have an emotional connection to their artists, and whenever anybody says anything remotely negative about their artist, they themselves feel personally attacked because they have an emotional investment in that artist. So it feels like their emotional investment and what they consider to be good art is now being attacked. And that's not the case at all. And like, if you click on a reaction video just to get another person confirming your own subjective bias towards good music, then this channel isn't for you. I'm sorry, it's not. Because people typically look at opera singers as, you are someone who has incredible vocal technique, and if you say that this artist I really like has value, then I know it does because you've studied and practiced. But then those very same people, the moment I give a criticism on another piece from the same artist, will say, I don't care if you're a singer, you don't know what you're talking about, this person is on such a high pedestal that you'll never reach, and all these things. And all of a sudden they're becoming very negative. And, you know, that's not what the point of music is. The point of music is to take each other's own subjective understanding of music. And yes, there is objective technique that we can focus on, but it doesn't mean that it's going to have the same emotional impact in everyone. Like, I think, like, just using Dimash as an example, I think Dimash is a really great vocalist. I think he's mastered a lot of different vocal techniques that I've seen him execute very well, and he has a very accomplished career, and he's very young. And that is really impressive and really excellent. It doesn't mean that I have a strong emotional connection with him. It doesn't mean that many of his singing styles and techniques I really enjoy. There's actually been several Dimash videos that I've recorded and edited that I've just completely scrapped because I just don't like the performance. And that isn't anything on Dimash, it's just my own subjective take on it, and I know that it would just be met with harsh retaliation if I posted it. So it's just coming down to the point of, how is it that we can navigate what is our own subjective musical taste versus really appreciating the technical skill and talent that somebody possesses. I think Dimash has an exceptional level of technical talent and skill and musical prowess and understanding. And you don't get that in a lot of musicians nowadays. A lot of musicians don't really focus on theory, but really focus on or composition, but rather just focus on technique and execution, which is completely understandable. But at the same time, it comes to the point of it ultimately just comes down to, what does the audience want to hear? And if an audience member has a deep emotional connection with not just the execution of something, but with the timbre, with the sound, with the performance of an artist, then absolutely, by all means, you should enjoy that performance, that artist. But if you are clicking on a reaction video, you are essentially signing a contract saying, I am opening myself up to the perspective of somebody else, especially in my channel, who is a professional, or the Charismatic Voice, who is a professional, or Maggie Renee, who's a professional, or Peter Barber, who's a professional. And you are opening yourself up to the criticisms of those people to say, these are great techniques, or this technique was a little off, or this is what I really liked about it, this is what I didn't really like about it. And those things can be both based in objective truth, but also be based in subjective bias. And oftentimes you're going to see them overlap. And if there's something that you don't necessarily agree with, you can always point it out and create a discussion about it. But just arguing your point and screaming and complaining that their criticism is unjust or unfair, you're just never going to get anywhere with it. Like, that's not a point of discussion. That's just you venting these feelings of which that person, that original artist that posted their own opinion, didn't even necessarily want to receive in the first place. You know, it I need to stop venting. But that's just my 2 cents on it. Let me see. In the words of Robert Heinlein, I never learned anything from a person I agreed with. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's the quote that I mentioned from Elbert Hubbard, the author, who had once said to a person who disagreed with an article he wrote, you know, I don't entirely agree with what I said yesterday today. I'm interested to learn what you think on the subject. Not everything I wrote yesterday appeals to me today. So tell me more, talk to me more, tell me more about your view. And that's absolutely true. We can't view people as static figures incapable of change. Even though there definitely are people in the world who refuse to change, and that is an absolute, because they find their most level of comfort in what they've already established for themselves, and change is very difficult. I understand that. But also at the same time, if a person genuinely wants to change, not just themselves, but their particular outlook on something, it's absolutely possible to do that, even if today is the first day of taking on that belief system. But you really have to mean it. You can't just say, yeah, I believe this now, even though I said something the exact opposite yesterday. You actually have to mean it, and you have to take real actionable steps to show that you mean it. And that's more of a grind. It's easy to just talk about things. I've noticed, especially in terms of social media and cancel culture and all of these things, where all of these opinions are just generated through word of mouth, through gossip, and just through general, like I just said, just general word of mouth. It comes down into right action and what is truly a good thing to do in any given moment. And you have to ask yourself and reflect on this, maybe meditate on this, just what does it mean to commit to right action? What is the kind of person that I want to be? And how do I navigate my own biases versus what I want out of myself versus what I want out of society, out of my friends, out of others? And constructing your own life in a way that makes you personally feel fulfilled. And I have no idea how other people choose to live their lives and what truly personally fulfills them. But I know with me, I know what fulfills me. And the things that fulfill me is providing something of genuine value to others. It's going out of my way at my own inconvenience and doing what I can to help others in ways that are profound, beautiful, meaningful. And I found that connection through art. But also, some of the greatest moments I've ever felt that made me feel the most fulfilled is when a friend called me at 1 a.m, and I go to bed early since I wake up early. So they knew that I was sleeping, but they called me and said, you know, I really need help. And I really need your advice, because they know that they can come to me for honest, direct, sometimes brutal, but honest and sincere advice. And it's always going to come from a place of compassion and sincerity, especially since they are my friend and I deeply love and respect them. So I just spent that night talking to them, and it made a world of difference. They thanked me with all of their heart afterwards, and that kind of feeling is something that made me the most fulfilled, knowing that my experience and what I've learned in my life was able to be accurately expressed through sincerity, through integrity, and with a little bit of genuine criticism and open-mindedness and laying it all out. And that's what fulfills me, is trying to better my environment, using my action that I know that I'm capable of controlling. And the only thing that I am capable of controlling is my own action. I can't control other people, I can't control the environment, but I can go out into the environment and use my action to make it a little bit better. And an example of that is going out to a local park and picking up trash, not with a group, or not because I want people to recognize me, but because I genuinely think it's the right thing to do. And it's not a matter of like coming across every evil you see or every injustice you see and doing something about it. It's picking and choosing your battles and understanding, I know the kind of person that I want to be. I know that engaging in this activity is maybe dangerous or is maybe unknown. There's a lot of unknown variables in it. Or this is serving at my inconvenience. Or I'm running behind on something, but doing this I know is going to give my mindset the boost it needs because I've been in a negative mindset all day. Or whatever the case is, it comes to the point of, can you depend on yourself to do what you truly believe is the right thing? Not just appear to others as the right thing, but actually have a strong sense of integrity and a personal sense of honor to say, this is what I truly believe is the right thing, after a lot of time reflecting on it, stewing on it, meditating on it, and coming out a stronger, wiser, happier person for it. And again, I'm done with my rift. As a species, we build best together. I think one of the reasons people like reaction videos is because they themselves are afraid to be as expressive as some others are. Such, aw, that's really sweet, John. Thank you. Yeah, it's like one of the reasons I even did reaction content in general is there's a few, or rather there's two specific reaction channels that have, I want to say 30,000 less subscribers, 30,000 and less. And so they're not very big, but I wouldn't say they're small either. And they're just their personalities and just the way that they express themselves. Their viewpoints I might clash with. Their perspectives are really intriguing. I would have never have seen some of these scenes in the light that they've shown on it. And I love that. I love the fact that I get to see this thing that I really enjoy through the perspective of another person. Even if that perspective is not my perspective, especially if it's not my perspective, there's something so valuable in seeing the way that a unique person with their own upbringing, their own experiences in life, their own view of the world engages with the same type of media that I've engaged with. There's something really poetic about that. And I love engaging with others in discussions on anime that we both might have seen, and just figuring out different nuances and ways of understanding something. Not too long ago, I had a conversation with a lovely young lady over in a cafe, and as I was starting to clean up all of my stuff, that's when we started getting into the discussion, which is funny, but because I was about to leave, and then that's when the conversation began. But it was really sweet, and we learned pretty quickly that we both really enjoyed anime, and we were asking each other, what kinds of anime do you really engage with? Some of the things that I listed, she had a strong resistance towards, where some other things that I mentioned, she really, really enjoyed. And I asked her, why do you have this resistance towards this anime? And why do you have this particular connection towards this anime? Understanding our differences and our similarities really helped create a really just beautiful moment, a lovely rapport. Even though we never saw each other again, just in that moment, we created a lovely rapport, just because we were testing each other's, not testing, but understanding each other's worldview, what we more connect with. Like, she really likes Fruits Basket, but really didn't like Attack on Titan. I really like Attack on Titan because of its storytelling. I also really like Vinland Saga for its storytelling. But both of those anime thematically are very intense, very dark, and can be extremely emotionally draining. But at the same time, Fruits Basket is also emotionally draining, and it plays a lot with emotional manipulation. So asking her about it, it wasn't the fact that the anime were emotionally draining, but it's the way that the characters developed throughout the series and the sincerity and kindness that was shown throughout it. Really beautiful and touching things, and I got to understand her a little bit more just as a person and what she values based off of that conversation of anime. And it's just keeping an open eye, open ears, and just allowing people's perspectives to penetrate you and allow those perspectives to not to completely restructure you, but understand what elements are really great connective tools towards building bridges with others. And I think that that's a really beautiful quality that all humans can develop, should we choose to. As a German, I really can confirm we do not give compliments. If we do not complain, it'll be the compliment. I mean, yeah. Yeah. When, like, just outside of that masterclass I had in Germany, just having my German was a lot better then. And by a lot better, I mean I could use basic conversation. And I haven't practiced German in several months, and I feel like I've pretty much lost all of it. But just in my regular conversation I had with just random people, whether it was a server or people I ran into at a water park or just walking down the street at the local farmer's market, it was just all very direct, very straightforward. No real compliments. Compliments were actually very uncomfortable for a lot of people, so and that's something I learned pretty much instantly getting there. So I just was very honest, very straightforward with my words, and people loved that. Oh my gosh. I remember I went into a bakery, and the woman running the counter was just, "What do you want?" And I said, "This. Great. This. Great. Bam." And when I was leaving, she was so, she was just happy. And I loved that. I visited the local bar, and the local bar was really excited to have all of us there because I went with a small class of musicians, and they were really excited to say, Americans! Oh my gosh! You're gonna give my very small bar a lot of business! Yes! And for several hours, we just went shot for shot. I've stopped drinking since then, but I remember that memory very fondly, just in terms of, it wasn't really the compliments because they didn't give any. They're just very expressive and very forward and direct. And I really, really love that feeling where if you just cut out all of the baloney, all of the fluff, and just talk about what it is that you really want to talk about, I think that's awesome. Wow, I got a lot of Germans in this chat. That's awesome. uh, there's no room from straying from the path if you are a true believer. Sure, yeah. You know, we all have an off day once in a while. Absolutely. Aw, thank you. Yes, please hit the thumbs up button. It helps the algorithm. But yeah. Man. Really great stories. Really great stories. Sorry, I'm reflecting a little bit. Not just on those particular stories. Which Dimash video did you not like, and example? Ooh. I feel like if I bring it up, I'm just gonna be hit with retaliation. But you know what? Whatever. There's a few. But one of them was the one that everybody thinks that I would love the most, which is War and Peace. I think the music video is... So there's a reason why I don't play Call of Duty, why I don't play Medal of Honor or things like that. I don't have a problem with first-person shooters or games that have like a certain level of violence in them, but if you couldn't tell already, I deeply, deeply love humanity and humanity's potential, humanity's capability, its prowess, and what it is that we're truly capable of achieving should we actually bring together bright minds and intellects and come together to create something truly magical. And that's why I find places like Epic Universe or Disneyland so compelling, or the International Space Station rather, because you just get a lot of brilliant minds coming together to create something for the best interest of the people. And I think that those are really beautiful things. So when I see videos on some of humanity's most intense darknesses, such as war or extreme hatred of people that you've never even met, that pains me to my core. So just the thematic element of War and Peace was really challenging to swallow, and it put me into a negative mindset just trying to get through the video in and of itself. But that being said, I did try listening to it multiple times, and every single time it's not only very difficult for me to get through, the music just wasn't compelling enough for me to really appreciate it. Like, there were some really cool vocal techniques being applied there, and I'm not discrediting the intense work it would have taken to produce those types of vocal techniques, but, you know, there are other vocalists that I have a more emotional connection with, that it's just not something that I deeply connected with. I really didn't care for the theme of it, especially the visual graphic nature of it. And it's not to shy away from the reality, the cold, harsh realities of the world. The world itself is a very dark and a very cruel place. There's a lot of injustices, and we're constantly living in a world of cause and effect. Some people have really wonderful, peaceful lives, where other people just are constantly being beaten to their knees by life for no reason. They haven't done anything wrong necessarily. So it's just the state of what you were born into, and a lot of circumstance coming your way. That being said, it doesn't pay to be a victim of circumstance. You have to utilize what you've been given to the best of your ability. But it doesn't mean to say that there aren't injustices in the world. But with that said, the music video itself just wasn't that compelling to me. I didn't think the music was stellar, and with that on top of just constantly watching Humanity's Darkness, which I have a strong, deep-rooted resistance towards. It was just gritting my teeth throughout all of it, and it wasn't a video I was proud of. So that would be one example of that. Have you seen the YouTube drum solo performance by Adam Rupp of Home Free? So when I was in university, I went to an event called the Los Angeles Acapella Festival, or LAF. And the featured acapella group there, it was originally going to be Pentatonics, but they couldn't make it. So Home Free was called, since they were in the area during that time. And I got to see Home Free live there. Back in, I believe it was 2014, maybe 2015, something like that. And yeah, he did his drum solo there, and that was awesome. As a vocal percussionist, I got a lot from that, honestly. I got a lot from Kevin from Pentatonics. I got a lot of Adam from Home Free. And the reason why I'm doing Home Free reactions on the channel is because I haven't heard anything from Home Free since graduating college, and that was a while ago. So I don't really remember a ton of their stuff. Which is why I think it's fine to do reaction videos to it. But yeah, I really digged Adam's drum solo. I feel like I don't need to listen to it on YouTube when I've already heard it live. I'm sure it's evolved over the years, but it was just really stellar, and that's a really fond memory I have, and I'd rather not get a different impression of it because of a video. You know, I think fond memories, especially of music, are better experienced live. Excuse me. I'm being horrendously well behaved today. I haven't even called you sweet thing. I mean, you can say whatever it is that you'd like, just as long as it's not inappropriate. You know, whatever it is that you what you want. You know, I think I've already told you this before. The story of One Sky is what I mean by War and Peace. I'm sorry I forgot the name, but yeah, the story of One Sky is what I mean. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I was referring to, not War and Peace, but the story of One Sky. Just, yeah, the message is beautiful, but it's a message I've already heard before. I don't need to hear it again. And it's a beautiful reminder, absolutely, and it's a call to action, which is wonderful. And it's his way of bringing forward a lot of issues that deeply affect him as a unique individual to his audience, to his platform, and I think that that's wonderful. There's a lot of beautiful elements about it. It's just the performance itself wasn't something that I could really get behind. That's cool. I thought of it as I was watching your reactions. Yeah, absolutely. I thought so. Fuck. I am very dehydrated. And exhausted. I had coffee this morning, but coffee just doesn't seem to be doing the trick anymore. And I don't think the answer to not enough coffee is more coffee. I think just 1 cup in the morning is fine, but I feel like I need to have more natural energy, more of a vibrance and excitement towards living life. I feel so grateful just to have all of my limbs and have control over all of my limbs and to have my own space, to be sheltered, like actually sheltered, and to have food, and just to have a lot of like, just to be in this position. I feel so privileged, and I feel like I'm not giving it enough excitement in the day to pay tribute to that. I really need to reflect on this a lot more. Like, I shouldn't be as exhausted as I am if I'm truly grateful to be young and alive and filled with energy, just not able to express it that much. It could be because I'm just, in general, emotionally drained, but I don't want to use that as an excuse. I really have to find better ways to engage with myself and with the world. Yeah. Ooh, horseback riding. That's a good one. I actually would like to try that. I think horses are beautiful creatures. Ooh, something else. My sister has an acting coach who is well versed in guns and gun safety. So we're going to, and especially like just recently, I've been watching the Olympics, since that's happening right now, and sorry, and I love the Olympics so much because, like I mentioned before, with me loving human potential, the Olympics are the best event in the world to showcase human potential. That and the World's Fair, but I haven't seen that. But in terms of the Olympics, I've been looking at a lot of different events, from rowing to gymnastics to shooting, even. Not just with air rifles, but with archery, with skeet shooting, and my sister and I, we don't really do many things together. We don't even talk that much. But when we do it, it's really wonderful and really just a nice conversation. But now we're hopefully we'll be able to kind of bond a little bit more through skeet shooting as a hobby. And I would also like to do Kyudo, which is Japanese archery. It's not so much about nailing the dead center bullseye every time like traditional archery might be, but it's just more of the art form of it and the practice and the technique of it. And I'm really fascinated by that, but I've also just been fascinated by Japanese culture for a really long time to begin with. And there's just so many things that I would love to try. But yeah, horseback riding is definitely one of them. I think that would be a lot of fun. Just things that have a certain level of danger I would like to try, just to make me feel like more alive in that way. Like, I would love to go skydiving. I would love to go scuba diving. I would, like, I've wanted to be a private pilot for quite some time and just don't have the money to really engage with that kind of program. So there's many elements that I feel would be very dangerous to engage in, but I think that's a part of life, is to have a certain level of risk involved where you're not constantly comfortable in a safe environment, and that you do feel alive because you are engaging with things that are very potentially dangerous. And an example of that, and this is a little irrational, but my friends think it's hilarious, and I'll share it. I have an irrational fear of Ferris wheels. I have no problem going on high intensity, incredibly tall, fast roller coasters. Ferris wheels are the things that get me. Because with Ferris wheels, at least with roller coasters, you're constantly in momentum, you're constantly moving. Ferris wheels, it feels like I'm stuck in one fixed location. It feels like I have no problem going in an airplane flying, even though it is terrifying for me. I can grit through the terror and just really feel the adrenaline and excitement. But with Ferris wheels, it's just fear. It's just and I go on them anyway because I think it's very important to push through fear, but I don't know why I have such a more difficult time changing that fear into excitement when I'm able to do that for things like flying, when I'm able to do that with things like things that I'm actually scared of. But Ferris wheels just seem to be the only thing that I can't transition fear into excitement for. I just feel the constant fear. I push through the fear regardless. It's not to say that I'm not going to do them. I do them pretty much every time I go out with my friends to a carnival or to a theme park or whatever, because they love Ferris wheels. And I love them to a degree too. I'm just terrified of them to some very raw level, very fundamental level. So, regardless, I always think it's really important to push through fear because you never know how pushing through that might contribute to your benefit later down the line in other areas of life. If you truly engage with something that's terrifying, you can recall moments of fear that you've experienced and say, well, I pushed through this. That means I can push through this, even though it's something completely different or wild or out of the ordinary. Take a walk. Being outside can work wonders. Oh man, you don't know the half of it. In terms of taking walks, I pretty much from when I was 10 years old, I created a fantasy world. And when I was in high school, I started taking night walks. But those walks became the most pronounced when I was in university. My night walks would take several hours. And that entire time I would just fall into my own world that I was building. And I still have the world, and I still contribute to the world. Like, I'm constantly developing the world, and now that world is almost 19 years old. Wow. And I've always loved night walks. It's so peaceful. It's dark. It's cool. It gives me plenty of room to be creative and to express my thoughts just on an internal level coming outward. There is a real beauty in just going on walks. I absolutely agree with you on that. Because of my schedule, I haven't really had a great amount of time to commit to walks regularly, which is why I commit to going to the gym every day to stay active. But honestly, I really shouldn't use that as an excuse. I should make more time to do night walks. Yeah. A biological man boxing women isn't fair sports from a biological man boxing women isn't fair sports from my point of view. No, I don't think so either. Those are two very different body types, and especially when it comes to things like boxing, where there are designated weight classes, especially for physiques and body types, Like you just can't have somebody who's like 3 builds bigger than you just pummel your face in. That's not the way to go. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for freedom of expression and how it is that you choose to engage with the world, and I don't have any prejudice against any one person or any group of people. You know, if there's a particular way that you choose to engage with life in a way that's real and authentic for you, that you've really given a lot of time and consideration to reflect on and to understand that this is truly how you wish to engage with the world, then all power to you, and I support you in those endeavors. Well, support meaning that I can't give all of my resources to you because I have a lot of my own things to worry about. But I don't have any prejudice against you, and I wish you the best of luck in your endeavors, rather. But when it comes to things like boxing or things that have very legitimate weight class and things like that, yeah, I agree with that. The gun range is a change. Archery and fencing are wonderful too. I love having a sword in my hand. I don't know if it's a sword, but rather a rapier, if memory serves correct. Just that long, flexible, aluminum thwacking stick. No, fencing is an incredible art. That's one of the other events in the Olympics that I've been actually monitoring. I didn't think that I'd be paying as close attention to it as I have been, but I have been, and it's really cool. But man, it must be so difficult to be able to react to thrusts and parries and different things like that. It's a very intricate sport, as messy as it looks from an outsider's perspective like myself, but I'm sure it's very nuanced and very complex and intricate and technical with all of those finer details. Fencing looks so challenging, and absolute incredible work from all of the Olympians in fencing. It's incredible. But yeah, I would also love to learn archery. Not those new archery bows, the traditional Odysseus 400-pound drawstring bow. Not actually 400 pounds, but in the story it was. But just in terms of the traditional style, just working through that. And like I mentioned, Kyudo as well, just for the technique and the respect to the culture, I think would be absolutely wonderful. Dan, you have musical talent with your voice. Do you play any instruments? The voice is an instrument? No, I'm not gonna fall down that rabbit hole. So I used to play piano, and I was pretty good. Also, being in music school, you have to be somewhat proficient in the piano, regardless of whatever instrument you play. It was like oftentimes in music school, you'll see people going into music production, music industry, music therapy. You'll see performance majors for the tuba, for trombone, for the voice. And you'll see people of all different musical backgrounds all in the same piano class together, because we all need to have some fundamental understanding of the piano. But that being said, an instrument that I did pick up that I had to put down because I couldn't afford the lessons, but I really want to pick back up again because I really enjoyed it and I loved playing the instrument. I think it's such a unique instrument, and it has its own sheet music, and it's really incredible. It's the banjo. I think the banjo is such a fun instrument and has such a unique twang to it, and the sheet music is not written like traditional sheet music is, and that's been a lot of fun to interpret. And just learning the process and just playing fundamental scales, it just brings so much peace of mind to my being, and I really do miss playing the banjo. I miss it a lot, actually, and hopefully when I get in a more financially secure position and have a little bit more free time, I'm absolutely going to pick that up again. Yeah, for sure. That and I would love to learn the bass. I always thought the idea of slapping the bass was so cool. It might just be something that I might have to appreciate from afar, but you know, I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know. I would love the opportunity to. I'm going too good for a cat of a Ferris. I'm too good of a cat for a Ferris wheel. The dangling feet. Yeah. If it's Boeing, I'm not going. Well, someone has a bias against a certain airline. I mean, I don't blame you. I went on a Spirit airline once, and it was such an atrocious experience. Not to say that I wouldn't fly with Spirit again, but let me just say that if I was taking a flight somewhere and one of my connecting flights was Spirit, I wouldn't go into it with high expectations, and I know just impulsively, intrinsically, I would have a negative view of it just based off of my own personal experiences. Chairlifts scare me. That's why I stick with cross-country skis. Yeah. Not too long ago, I went to Big Bear, and we had to take... And there was this downslope attraction, rather. And it was really, really cool, and I absolutely loved it. But it was my first time being on a ski lift. And let me tell you, that was terrifying. I was just sitting back, like I just didn't know what to do. There's not seatbelts. You get that little bar, but that's not really much. It's, you know, if you don't think about it, it's considerably easier to manage. But when I first got onto it, it was this huge surge of fear. Obviously, I pushed through and I enjoyed myself throughout most of it, but just getting on it and starting that incline, oh, that fear just rose right out of me. So I really sympathize with that fear. I've tried Kudo before, but it was very difficult since I needed to study the history. Started from 500 BC, Yayoi period. That's really cool. I didn't know you had to study... Well, actually, I didn't know that you do have to study the history. I think that's a part of the technique of it. But that's something that I'm, of course, going to get into the actual moment that I decide to make the commitment to learning it. But yeah, it's... Like I was mentioning, it's not about the sport of getting it right in the center of the bullseye. You know, you could do that with darts or traditional archery. That's much more focused around the technique, the history, the tradition, the style. And I think those elements of it are what I respect about it the most. So, you know, but all power to you for engaging with it in the first place. I can only imagine the challenge. So, kudos to you, man. My friend has a collection of stringed instruments, including a couple of banjos. That's awesome. There was the most unique stringed instrument I've ever played is the box guitar, and I found that to be a very fun instrument to play. The most unique instrument I've ever seen played is the musical saw, which my music entrepreneurship professor played, where you just take a bow and an actual saw, and you bend it to create almost like a theremin type quality, where it's very haunting, very kind of effect, and it's very fascinating. Speaking of the theremin, that's another really fun instrument I got to play in my music technology class. And I absolutely recommend everyone playing that instrument at least once. It is so much fun just playing around with an instrument that you don't touch. A theremin picks up magnetic waves, and you control the dynamic with one hand and the pitch with the other hand. And just playing around with that and getting adjusted to creating basic melodies with it, there's almost something intoxicating about playing around with it. It's just so much fun. I had such a great time with that instrument. I learned as a theater student I own a two-handed battle sword. I had a 150-pound draw bow. I still have my crossbow. Wow! A 150-pound draw bow. Dang, dude, that's awesome. And a two-handed battle sword. I'm guessing that's a cross-hilt, traditional, like, King Arthur battle sword. Over at... The only time that I ever lifted a sword was at Medieval Times, which is a dinner theater show in Southern California. And they have... And outside of the theater, there's a chamber where you get to see a lot of medieval torture devices, and an area that has a bunch of traditional style medieval weaponry, including swords. They had smaller swords, one-handed swords, and really giant battle swords. And those battle swords can weigh upwards of 50 pounds. And just picking them up, I'm like, how do you battle with this? You're like... But then at the same time, I started remembering Star Wars, the original trilogy, episodes 4, 5, and 6. Well, more specifically, episodes 4 and 5. Those lightsabers were pretty much just as impossibly heavy. They didn't make them lighter until, I believe, episode 6 and then the prequel trilogy, which made, obviously, lightsaber combat a lot easier and more fluid. But yeah, they just needed to pick those suckers up and go, just essentially do sharp jabs because they were just that heavy. Man, I don't know how anybody can battle with a two-handed battle sword, but all power to you. If you got that kind of strength, dude, I've never skied somehow. It hurtling downhill to highly polished slats of wood with sharp spears in my hand, not the best of ideas. I mean, my mother skied. She actually got awards for skiing when she was younger. And she said that skiing is considerably easier than snowboarding, which, you know, I don't have any frame of reference for, and I don't have any reason to distrust her. So I believe her on that regard. But it could also just be a personal mindset, too. Like, for me personally, I've only ever been on a skateboard once, and I fell off immediately, and I said, I am already an uncoordinated person. This is going to kill me. I'm not going to do this. And I figure, like, the way you shift your body is similar to skateboarding as it is with snowboarding. And ultimately, it's just learning body weight. Like, when I learned how to ride a bike, I learned pretty late in my life. I learned when I was 18 or 19. I also learned when I was, like, 10, but it wasn't really something that I really picked up on. It wasn't until I was 18 or 19 that I actually really started learning how to ride a bike. And trying to figure out how to maintain balance, how to ride in general, it was very awkward. So honestly, I think it just comes down to, you know, by engaging with this task, do you know you're going to wipe out? Yes. Do you accept the fact you're going to wipe out? Yes. And as long as you accept the fact that you are taking on an inevitable risk, then I think the process of enjoying learning how to do that becomes so much more easy and more enjoyable. Like, for me, learning how to ride a bike, I wiped out and crashed into objects and people and just on my own so many times. It's countless, actually. And I've hurt myself in a myriad of ways, but I got better through each experience. You know, it's real world criticism, if you will. It's nobody telling you anything directly, but it's just the world saying, this is what happens when you get in this kind of situation. Learn from it. Oh, I love that cold, harsh reality. It feels so good. Oh, yeah, dude. I love it. I did a lot of waitressing, still have the biceps. I imagine. Erie Canal bike path chat from last week. Yeah. I remember that. I asked my niece to do something. They say, hold my thought. We'll get back to you on that. It's actually been rather painful for me because there's something so poignant and cathartic about watching my parents grow older. You know, I still see my parents in the exact same way that I saw them when I was, well, not in the exact same way. It's evolved over time, obviously. But emotionally, I still see them in the same way as I did with my earliest memories of them when I was like 4 or 5. And you know, and my dad is a very, very tall man. My dad is 6'6", and the only reason I'm as short as I am at 5'11" is because my mom is short. So I'm perfectly in between them. But I love both of my parents. But my dad always took very big strides, especially when I was younger and didn't go through puberty and didn't grow. He was always ahead of me, and seeing myself be ahead of him now, it's very poignant. It hurts me a little bit, because he is still taller than me, but he doesn't take the strides he used to, and I see physical pain on his face when he gets out of cars, and I don't see my mom being as active as all of the stories that she told me in her youth. So there is a poignancy, and it's hard seeing people grow older. But at the same time, I think it's also very beautiful because it gives you a chance to really appreciate life and the kinds of things that people have been able to give you throughout your life. Like, one of the most devastating moments in my life was when my dog died. And that might not sound like something really... And that might sound like something privileged, saying that, oh, your dog died, like, that's the worst thing that happened to you. It's not the worst thing that happened to me, but it was a very emotionally impactful moment for me. And it just tore me apart when it happened. And just watching his health gradually decline. And I didn't get to see him every day, especially when I was in university and my parents were taking care of him. I tried to come home as often as I could, but it wasn't that often. And even after graduating, I was focusing so much on my 2 jobs at the time and on the relationships that I was building that ultimately ended up failing, and all of these different elements that every time I saw him, I just saw these changes in in his health, and it broke me because my emotional connection with him was still just as strong as ever. It's very similar to the lessons one would learn in Winnie the Pooh, where Pooh is always there. Pooh hasn't changed. You've changed. You've grown. And that's something that I always take with me. And that's one of the reasons why Winnie the Pooh has such a strong foothold in my heart, because of the lessons of particular elements in our past might not change, but we change as people, and that's inevitable. Human beings are designed to evolve. We're designed to grow and to change and to adapt. That's who we are as people. Some people might be stubborn about that, but ultimately it's hardwired into us. And to know that we form very strong emotional connections with people or with living animals, and to see just that health decay over time, it hurts. It really does. But it's also a really good opportunity to love the time that you have with them, love those opportunities, love your own life, love your youth. And if you're not youthful, love the fact that you have that youthful energy in your heart. There's a man who has a podcast named Bob Gurr. And Bob Gurr is one of the most iconic Disney Imagineers. He worked directly with Walt Disney. He's in his mid or late 90s at this point, I want to say. And he was talking with other legendary Disney Imagineers, and he was saying, people tell me all the time that I need to act my age, and you want to know what my response to that is? One time a person told me that I needed to act my age in a supermarket. So I said no, and I ran down the aisle on my shopping cart and jumped on it and rode down on my shopping cart. And then another occasion he said he was hiding behind his car and someone asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm hiding behind my car so I can spook my wife when she gets here from the groceries." And just having that youthful spirit in your heart, I think lets you appreciate life a little bit more. And it's just so endearing and beautiful seeing that kind of energy, that where even though your body might be decaying through age or through disease, that your outlook on life is impregnable and unassailable, that you can ultimately choose to have a mindset of someone who is deeply empathetic and caring and compassionate and strong and willful and youthful, and just doing everything they can to live their life as richly and authentically as they can. And I think that that's a really beautiful thing. Absolutely. I saw my parents the same way until they started having health issues. How's the Patreon launch going? So the Patreon is going actually pretty decent. I started uploading content to it, which is a really great sign. I'm not completely sure the way I'm uploading content to it is sustainable, because I can't upload content directly to it. I have to upload it through a different source and use the link from that source to upload it to Patreon. And it's a bit of a unnecessarily complex process. And I've been having a pretty challenging time getting with it, because uploading videos takes a long time to do, especially depending on processing speeds and all of these elements. So it's a little difficult, but hopefully within the next week or two, it should launch. But I'm going to start posting in the descriptions of my videos and posting at the ends of my videos. I always say this at the end of my videos, so please stay tuned for the absolute end of them. on updates regarding the Patreon. And hopefully it should be out soon. So I really appreciate you asking that. I really do. Yeah, that should be coming out soon. I do have a fair amount of content for it. I have the early music reactions ready to go for it. It's just uploading it is such a grind, dude. It's tough. Getting old beats, living poo poo out of the only other currently available option. Yeah, I can imagine. I miss my see you. Horribly. I'm guessing that's your dog. We walked every canyon and dry arroyo between LA and Santa Barbara. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, lots sitting down sessions when learning Kyudo. On top of its history, you're expected to understand truth, goodness, beauty, and all that. It wasn't just simple aim. I fully believe that, and to be perfectly honest, that description of it just makes me want to study it more. Like, when I first heard about Kyudo, I was just as wrapped by it as I was about taiko, which is Japanese drumming. And I knew from the very beginning that I could not learn taiko because, well, I could, but one, drumming isn't my forte. Which is ironic because I'm a beatboxer, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I could do taiko well. It's such an intense art, and it requires what appears to me to be omnipotent stamina and endurance, and putting your whole heart and entire being, your soul, your heart, your mind, your everything that you are and are capable of producing, you produce in that taiko performance. And I've seen taiko groups run marathons together, nobody left behind, they just run it together. And being in a half sit-up position, that, like, just that half sit-up position, and drumming like that for 30 plus minutes, oh my gosh, I could barely hold that position for 45 seconds, let alone moving in it for half an hour plus. Oh my gosh, dude. But yeah, like, when it comes to Kyudo though, a lot of it seems to be stemmed in the ancient tradition, seems to be stemmed in the education and understanding of the culture and what it means to participate in that activity. And that is definitely something that rings very true to me, and something that I feel like I'm much more capable of embracing. My Bill still rides the shopping cart. I laugh a lot. Oh, and I still dance. Dancing is awesome. I suck at dancing, but it's awesome. And yeah, just have fun, you know, enjoy your life, and don't let other people tell you how to enjoy it. You know, everybody has their own things that they like about the world. Like, there's many childlike elements about my own self that people are embarrassed to engage with when they go out with me. But, you know, it doesn't really affect me because that's on them, you know. I'm perfectly happy going to a restaurant and ordering my chocolate milk because I like chocolate milk, you know, whatever. The coffee that I drink in the morning, pretty much everything I drink is some variant on chocolate milk outside of water. Speaking of which, this is water. But, like, my coffee in the morning is literally coffee with some Ghirardelli chocolate in that and some cream. So you have chocolate and cream, which is milk, if you want to be specific about it. So bam, chocolate milk with coffee. I oftentimes, pretty much throughout all of middle school and high school, and even to this day, if I'm running behind on something in the morning, I'll have instant breakfast, which is essentially a protein milk drink that's flavored chocolate. And like, just let people enjoy things is all I'm saying. Even if it sounds a little embarrassing, you know, if you really enjoy something and it doesn't cause direct harm to others, like, just enjoy yourself. Just run down the shopping aisle with your cart if the aisle is empty, you know, just take some time. Like, the other day, I walked out of my apartment because I was spending way too much time inside editing videos, and I just knew I needed to get out and do something. So I just walked to the end of the block, found this really lovely rose bush, and just took the time to quite literally smell the flowers. It was, one, because I love flowers and I love the beauty that they provide visually and through their scents, but it was just something that made me feel really good. You know, just let people enjoy things. My gosh. I retired after 40 plus years in IT. If you need help setting up your Patreon or with your data analyst studies, I might be able to help. Oh, I really appreciate that. Thank you. As of right now, I'm in the process of just job hunting and figuring where I'm at right now. I'm in this really weird spot where I'm just finding my path by experimenting with a lot of different ideas while refining some skills that I have. So I'm not in any particular like rush to solve issues. But that being said, I am working diligently on each of these things, so we'll see how it goes. But I appreciate that offer. Can we offer suggestions for music? Is there any music genre or era that interests you? I mean, you're more than welcome to provide suggestions. I mean, in almost every video I post, people are constantly barraging me with their own suggestions, and I always take them all into consideration as I make future videos. So you're more than welcome to share your thoughts. Just, you know, like, if I get to it, then that'll be awesome, and I hope you enjoy those videos. But if I don't get to it, you know, it's just the way it is. But in terms of any particular music genre or era, no. I find that there can be a great amount of value in almost any era or any genre of music. The most recent adaptation I had with that philosophy was into rap music, where I didn't understand it throughout most of my childhood, and never really engaged with it. But that was also because my parents did control what it is that I listened to, and most of it was just classical music and classic rock. So it wasn't until I really made it into university where I started learning different styles of music like hip-hop and rap alongside real varying styles of jazz music and metal, symphonic metal, etc. So I find a lot of value in a myriad of different types of music. And if I haven't been exposed to a certain type of music, like Cosmo Sheldrake is an artist that I have no idea how to even classify his music. It's so bizarre, but I love it. And I love the ingenuity and creativity behind it. So I think it just comes to the point of, you know, what can you, not what can you. My point being, feel free to offer your suggestions. I will take them into consideration as I make future videos. That's it. I don't have a preference. Feel free to list anything you want. Like Nightwish is a pretty old group, but that was met with a lot of positivity. I was thinking about branching out into hip hop and rap, but at the same time, because it's not really music focused, it's more flow and messaging. And I'm not necessarily one that really likes commenting a lot on the messaging of pieces. I'd much rather comment on the music, since that's what I connect with more in most songs. So I've just decided to not go into that genre, at least at this point. You should definitely experience Wadaiko. Even in a little workshop. The sound you feel in your stomach, OMG, it's amazing. Let me look up what Wadaiko is. Wadaiko. Oh, Japanese drumming. Oh, great, yeah. Yeah, okay, so it's just a variation of taiko. Yeah, absolutely. I would love that. 100%. Yeah, like, the first time I ever saw just a percussion performance live, it was actually the group Stomp, who are a bunch of street performers that come together to use just regular objects you would find in the street. Tubs, bins, spoons, pans, spatulas, signs, etc. And using all of the different tones that each thing makes, that each sign or spoon or broom or whatever makes, and creates a really fun, exciting piece about it. They're essentially street ensemble Blue Man Group. And it's just really, really exciting. And the moment that I saw that, when I was taking my ethnomusicology class, or the study of world music, my final report was Western drumming versus East Asian drumming. And I focused specifically on the subsects of American or Western drum lines versus taiko. And the research I did for that, the difference was astounding. Fortunately, my university did have both a drumline and a taiko group, and I was able to speak with the star pupils, let's say, of both, the leaders of both, and that was a very enriching experience. My essay wasn't great. I don't know why it wasn't. I thought it was very well written, and it was very long. It took me forever to make, but the information that I gained from the research of that was invaluable, and I'm deeply fortunate that I learned so much more about it. Just watching through the screen a taiko performance gave me chills. I can only imagine what it's like to actually be there live and watch the sweat and the tears and the painstaking labor of creating that kind of music for an audience. Like that's a performance if I've ever seen one. 2 cellos go from Beethoven's Fifth, Whole Lotta Love. 2 cellos. Yes, I have heard 2 cellos. They've actually performed in Southern California, I want to say a little over 5 years ago. I didn't have the opportunity to see them. I was busy on the days they were performing, unfortunately. But I remember my introduction to them was Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal, and oh my gosh, their charisma skyrocketed. Like, first off, both of them are extremely handsome young men, but just the fact that they had so much flair in the way that they presented their art. Oh my gosh, just incredible stuff, dude. And then I saw them do Thunderstruck, and I thought that was just a wild performance. And then I saw a couple of their live shows, not actually live, but live from YouTube, which was amazing. And then I heard that they split up, and I thought that was sad, but, you know, that's what happens to many groups. If it could happen to the Beatles, it can happen to anyone. Yeah, absolutely. They're two really incredible musicians, and all power to them, and success in their future careers, for sure. What time is it? Oh, great. Okay, so my battery is dying. And I think that's gonna just about do it for this live stream. So I want to take the time to really appreciate all of you for being here and just enjoying this time together. I really digged just this discussion, this open conversation, and it was just really nice. I really enjoyed being here, and I hope you guys did as well. This has been wonderful, and I'm really excited to discuss more world music or hobbies or particular points of view or whatever it is that you guys want to talk about. Feel free to share all of those things in the upcoming videos, and I'm really excited to see you guys there. Honestly, this has been such a wonderful time, and I really enjoyed this time. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Blue and John. It means a lot, and yeah, I will catch you guys on the flip side. And until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.